morning, everyone. Good morning, at least from the United States of America. Good evening in Syria and other parts of the world. My name is Suzanne Merritt, and I'm the Executive Director of the Syrian American Council here in the United States, and I'm absolutely privileged to be joining our guests on this call today. Basically, we're talking together a year after the incidents of Aleppo with survivors and heroes from Aleppo. And you will know a little bit more about what I'm talking about, but this is such an emotional conversation for so many of us that are either Syrian American or Syrian or simply people following the plight of freedom of the Syrian people and what they have gone through for the past 7 years. I think most of our audience today knows what we are discussing. However, for many, and hopefully many new people can join and learn about what is going on in Syria, what has gone on in Aleppo, and why. So again, thank you, and such a privilege. But since the beginning of the Syrian revolution, which began in March of 2011, one city that has seen all of the effects of devastation incurred by the Assad regime and its allies, mainly the Iranian government and the Russian government, was Aleppo, Eastern Aleppo to be exact. They've gone through bombardment, sieges, genocide. It frankly has seen it all. And same can be said, frankly, of many cities in Syria. And sadly, I know this is a conversation about what happened a year ago, but sadly, all of this is still happening today in many parts of Syria. Today, 1 year later, we are talking with survivors from East Aleppo, but they're not just survivors. They are heroes. They are the ones who brought us the stories from what was happening inside Eastern Aleppo. They are the ones who shared very painful actions. They were actually under the bombardment themselves. They were in danger themselves, but they still took out the time. Instead of running away and saving themselves, they took out the time to send us videos and messages and conversations to tell the rest of the world what exactly was taking place and what was happening. And we know for many of them, these are very painful memories. We know it's difficult to go back and discuss, but we also know that they want to continue this message because, well, for two reasons, really. We can never forget what has happened in Syria at the hands of the Assad regime, the Iranian regime, and the Russian regime. But we also have still not attained freedom for the Syrian people. That's really all they were asking for, is simple freedom, simple human rights. And yet they had to endure genocide because governments did not want to give them their freedom to live. So let's go directly to our guests. We have 7 of them today. They will be in and out, believe it or not. Some of them are in the middle of going into operations because they're doctors or going back to their jobs of continuing this conversation, but they have taken the time out to talk to us and to give us information. And we so appreciate them and we love them and we hope we can, do them justice for the messages they are about to give. I'm going actually to introduce everyone at once, even though not everyone is on just yet, but in case, like in one of the cases, we have a doctor who has to hop in and hop off again due to being on task for an operation. And so I want to make sure we all know who's joining the call, and then we'll start our conversation. We'll make this more of a round table so that we get to hear from everyone, and we want everyone to be able to converse comfortably and share their thoughts. So today we will be joined by Dr. Farida, who many of you, frankly, we've all heard of everyone joining us today, but you know Dr. Farida as the last obstetrician from East Aleppo. She stayed on when, death came to the door, basically, but she had to be there to make sure people were taken care of and women were able to deliver safely or as safely as can be under the conditions. We will also be joined by Ismail Abdullah. He's from the Syria Civil Defense in Aleppo, otherwise known as well as the White Helmets. We will be joined by Rami, Zien, and Etaky, both of whom are photographers and journalists who also played a huge role in sharing the stories, sharing the very difficult stories, but at least helping the world see what was truly going on inside Aleppo. We will be joined by Abdulkafi Alhamdo, a teacher from Aleppo and an activist, and someone who many of you know from the campaign Stand with Aleppo. Actually, the hashtag Stand with Aleppo was something started here in the US by a dear social media journalist by the name of Wendy Whittam and a team of hers, and they have been essential at bringing, also continuing that story from our heroes inside Aleppo into the United States via social media, and that group keeps growing. We also have Ms. Afraa Hashim, who's an activist. She was also very active with the BBC and the LA Times and was able to get us stories through those mediums. And we will also be joined by Wissam Zaraqa, also a teacher from Aleppo. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here with us today. We're going to make this an informal conversation. Let's begin. I'm just going to start with a random name, but we'll also would love for people to jump in and chat. But let's start with Abdulkafi Alhamdo this morning, our teacher from Aleppo. Abdulkafi, can you tell us what it's like now 1 year later and what it feels like for you? Abdulkafi, are you with us? Okay, no worries. Like I said, we'll be in and out for some people. Afraa, what about you? Afraa?
Yes.
Yes, can you hear me? Okay, excellent. Can you tell us, repeat the question?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. My question to you was, a year after Aleppo falling, what does it feel like? Where are you? What are you up to? What can you tell us about what's going on in your area?
Hello?
Abdulkafi speaking now.
Yes, yes, go ahead and speak.
Hello?
Me or Abdulkafi?
You go ahead, Afraa. You go ahead.
Yeah. Yes.
So can you tell us what is going on right now in Aleppo, what it's like a year after Aleppo falling?
I'm with you. Sorry.
Habibi.
The most difficult feeling is the separation, parting of our city of friends, memories, and shared dreams, fearing from unknown future and unknown fate.
I see. And are you still in any direct danger at this time?
Sorry, repeat.
Are you still living under dangerous conditions at this time?
No, after the displacement, I moved to Turkey by illegal way, and now I'm living with my family here in Gaziantep. But after a year of displacement, we still suffer from the lack of the adaptation to the new conditions and new atmosphere, new people, new language. We still miss our city and friends and period dreams.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. And do you keep in contact with family and friends still in the city at this time?
My friends, just my friends, they keep in touch with me, but they are in Idlib maybe, or here there are some orphans here in Turkey. I still in touch with them.
Okay, and what are their life conditions like right now?
About them?
Yes, yes, for them.
Yeah, the condition is so difficult, especially my students. The situation change and they hate to be away from their city and their school, their friends and teachers. They see new faces and a new atmosphere.
Okay, thank you. And you said a very key thing. You said, you know, there's still the fear of the unknown, and we'll come back to that rest of the conversation because that's a very important point. Thank you so much, Afraa. I know Dr. Farida has joined us. Dr. Farida, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello, Dr. Farida. We're going to talk to you because we know you might need to step away. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, we know you've been a huge, you know, tool in traveling and sharing these stories as well. So that's something very appreciated because the best way to tell the truth is through the storytelling from people who've been through the difficulty. Where are you now, Dr. Farida? Where are you located?
Now I'm in Idlib countryside in a small city called Adana. I'm living here now, and today I had a night shift in the hospital.
Oh, yes. So we appreciate you coming, you know, doing the night shift and being with us. Still, you know, right before you came on, we talked about how Aleppo's story was a year ago, but it's so important that we still discuss it because it's still a very live incident right now. So yeah, I would love to hear from you because, you know, you were right in the trenches of everything going on. You know, how do you feel now about what took place a year ago? And where do you think we stand now in terms of, you know, the culprits? For instance, you know, the Assad regime, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, you know, what role did they play and what role are they still playing now in what is going on? We'd love to hear your perspective on the issue.
I think the future in Idlib until now is unpredictable, so no one could tell you what is the future for us, for all the people who still live in Idlib now, in the Idlib city or Idlib countryside. So the situation is not, we don't know how the future will be, and everybody here living in Idlib is still afraid because they don't know the future. Many people now, of people still thinking about leaving or escaping from Idlib because the situation is not stable until now. So and also the Iranian militias still taking some areas from Idlib countryside, about eastern of Idlib or eastern of Hama, and there is still some battle there still until now. And yesterday there was one car had exploded inside my in Adana. So the situation is not stable until now, and most of the people here don't know how about the future. And also the most of the schools here is not working good job. My daughter is in private school, and it's not that good. And the other situation for people who's living in camps is so bad because it's winter, and you know the winter is very bad for the people who's living in camps. The situation it's so emotional when you go there. You see people in camps without any kind of warming up. There is no fuel for them. There is no electricity. And also here we are living in the in this area. There is no electricity. We just depend on generators and nothing else. So the situation, as a living situation, is not good. The people here, the number of doctors, the number of population here. There is so many population, but the doctors is not enough for all that people. Today I had made many cesareans, many vaginal deliveries, and this is still many people is waiting, many patients waiting their turn for cesareans. So but, I had hope,
Good. You know, good. And that's amazing. The fact that you can tell us all this and tell us that you have hope. That's, I think, why many people can survive, because those of you who have hope can work together and stick together and get through this. So thank you for having that hope. That's amazing, and that gives us hope. Even though
that's what makes me still in Syria, not to get out of Syria, because I still have hope that one day the situation will be better. And I think all that martyrs, all that people who had give their blood for this revolution, everything will not go for nothing. There is a reason for all of this. So we had to fight for the last minute of this war with the regime and Iranian militias and also Russian militias.
Yes. So can you tell us a little bit more about the militias now, you know, especially with you being in Idlib right now? I mean, do you have contact with these militias? Do you see them on a regular basis? Are they part of the people's lives? How is that working right now?
I didn't see any of them because my area is far away from fire lines. But I know there's many of my friends are living there, and many of them are fighting on that lines. And there is many battles going on until now. Still, the battles is still until now on the Hama countryside. The situation is very bad at the fire lines. But my countryside is far away from that fire lines.
Okay.
So I can't tell you what's going on precisely.
Sure. No, thank you very much for that, and we can certainly check in with the others. And you know, right before you were speaking about that, I was going to tell you that there are those of us who are outside Syria and who, you know, I'm from Syrian origin, however, I've never lived in Syria. But, you know, my job here in the US is to make sure we take your stories and we talk about them with the US government, with the American public, with the American people, so that they can help us advocate for those, you know, the freedoms that the Syrian people want. And there are some of you who decided to stay inside Syria, like you said, because there's hope. And you want to try to work things out until one day, hopefully, the regime falls and we have that freedom. And then there are those of you who left and went to other areas, are living either in Europe or Turkey. Some came to the US. And you guys also have such an incredible job to keep telling those stories and working with the media outside Syria, you know, working with the governments and the parliaments outside Syria so that we can also get that message. So, you know, I always like to mention in all my conversations that I'm so proud of the Syrian people, whether they are inside Syria, outside Syria. You know, of course, those of you who have gone through all of this, you know, criminality from the regimes, we can never, ever repay you for what you've gone through, and forgive us if we haven't done our job. But I'm also so proud of the Syrian community as a whole for just working on this. You know, it's been 7 years, and like you said, Dr. Farida, hope is there, and we will get to a free Syria one day soon, I hope. So thank you so much, and we'll come back to you if you're still with us and you haven't gone to and worked this morning. Thank you so much.
Maybe I had an operation now.
I know. Thank you. I can't believe it. So that's why we're so thankful for you being here. Let's go to. Thank you, my dear. Let's go to Abdulkafi. Abdulkafi, can you hear me? I know you were trying to say hello to us earlier. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, just a minute.
There you are.
Yeah, no. Do you hear me?
Okay, I hear you. I hear you well. Yes, thank you so much. Abdulkafi is a teacher from Aleppo, and he, you know, through the activity happening in Aleppo last year and through until today, frankly, he's still on a regular basis, almost daily basis, sharing information and giving information and getting the messages out to get it outside of Syria so we can share with the media and everyone else who needs to know. So Abdulkafi, please, you tell us, you know, where are you now? What are you experiencing? And yeah, just let us know.
Okay, hello, how are you everyone? Now I am still in Syria, in the western countryside of Aleppo. I'm in a town called Al-Atarib. This town witnessed a massacre just a few weeks ago by the warplanes. a whole market destroyed. It was a massacre. I was there with my daughter just half an hour before the massacre. What happened with me in Aleppo. I saw those atrocities, those horrors that I saw in Aleppo. I lived this again. I couldn't imagine that I'm gonna see that again or gonna live this again, but I lived it. We think that things might be repeated. Aleppo horror, Aleppo, you know, what we lived there might happen again and again here in all these liberated areas. Yeah.
Yes, and what's interesting is, you know, here we are doing an event on 1 year after Aleppo, and it has been a year, but really not much has changed, right? You're still going through the same difficulties. We know there were some terrible massacres that took place in the month of November, and as you said, even more recently. So this is why it's so important to have these conversations and to keep getting your messages out. Abdulkafi, can we talk a little bit about the militias involved? You know, especially the Assad regime, the Russian support to the Assad regime, and of course, in our conversation today, the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. What role do they play? We had a call almost a week ago, and we all learned about the IRGC's strength in supporting the Assad regime. They're really what's propping up the regime, if you will. They're very organized, they're very well funded, and they have basically situated themselves in areas in Syria where they have very strategic the land in order to run what they want, and they're consulting the regime. Basically, they're running the show in a way. What can you tell us about that and their role and what's going on, what happened, you know, throughout the 7 years and even still till today?
Maybe the last few.
Abdulkafi, we lost you there for a second. Can you hear us? Can you hear me, Abdulkafi? Can everyone else hear me?
Oh, yes.
Oh, here we go. Who's speaking now?
Oh, this is Munzir.
Oh, hi, Munzir. How are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
How are you doing today?
Pretty good.
Okay, good. Sorry, I think we lost Abdulkafi. We will come back to him. But Munzir, maybe you can answer that last question for us.
Yes.
Munzir is a photographer and a journalist, so of course he's very familiar with the movements that have taken place, and he's documented a lot of it. So go ahead, Munzir.
Here, Abdulkafi is back again.
No, it's okay. Go on, Munzir.
No,
go on.
It's your turn, man. No, it's your turn.
Don't worry.
Fine, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna mute mine.
Okay, no problem.
Take your turn. You know better than me because I'm not in Atari.
Go ahead. He wants you to speak, Abdulkafi. So go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Now I'm going to speak in general about the current situation, which is of course the same a year ago. I mean, these the same militias, the same from outside Iran, Iraqi, Russia, Assad regime, of course, and Lebanese militias. Of course, all the foreign militias, as we said before, they are supported by Iran. They came to Syria to fight the Syrian people, not, of course, to fight terrorism, because they are the terrorism. I'm gonna speak about specific and important issue, which is going on now in Hama. What happens now is this: Assad regime, Iranian militias, they have an agreement with ISIS to bring them from Deir ez-Zor from Raqqa and from eastern countryside of Hama to Idlib to fight us, to fight the Syrian opposition, to find the revolutionaries. Exactly, this is the reality of ISIS. ISIS is created by Assad regime and those militias to fight, to destroy the Syrian opposition, to destroy the Syrian revolution. And they now they are fighting side by side in northern countryside of Hama. They, when they want to advance on, ISIS, when the ISIS wants to advance on the ground, they have air support from the Russian warplanes. They have artillery support from the Iranian and Assad regime militias who are on the ground. They fight together, they advance together on the ground. And this is the reality. This is the reality of ISIS. ISIS is never has never been, Assad has never been an enemy for Iran. ISIS is created by them to fight us, to fight the Syrian revolution. Now this is what's going on in Aleppo countryside. Today, the Iranian militias try to advance in the southern countryside of Aleppo, and they made some progress, and they are so closer and closer to the civilians here. I don't know if you know now that these areas contains about 4 million people, most of them displaced, of all countries, of all cities and towns in Syria. And these people are in danger of these militias that came, that they are gathered here just to fight us, to fight our children, our dreams, our life. They want to destroy everything we are dreaming of.
You know, thank you, because you have touched on a very important subject, and this is something we have to make sure is clear to everyone, and that is that.
Okay, there is an important point. Of course, now I'm sure of that. Last time I wasn't sure. Because of this, I didn't speak about it. Now I'm sure, because some people who were in Raqqa with ISIS, now they are in Hama. How could they move? How could they come from Raqqa and Deir ez-Zor, a lot of them, how they can come from those areas now to the northern countryside of Hama? They came by the Syrian regime and the Iranian and the Russian buses from those areas to fight us. And this is very, very important issue that all the world should know it.
This is a very important issue because, of course, as we know, the narrative from the Syrian regime in partnership with Russia and the IRGC is that they are fighting terrorists in Syria, when in fact, basically they are killing innocent civilians with the help of terrorist groups like ISIS. And you know, I know there's always conversation about where ISIS came from, Abdulkafi, and who started it, but we know very well that, and it is very well documented, as a matter of fact, even by the US government, that the Assad regime actually fuels ISIS because they buy oil directly from them. And so there's business partnerships between the regime and ISIS. We also know, and it has been documented, that when ISIS supposedly escapes from one town to another, you know, no one goes after ISIS, no one hits ISIS, and yet all the bombardment taking place by the Syrian, Russian, and Iranian regime is all, or of course the Iranian regime directly on the ground, but that is all directed at innocent civilians. Again, the people who started asking for freedom in 2011. And in fact, they're not, you know, Iran, Russia, and Syria are not fighting terrorists, they're fighting innocent civilians. So that's a very important point. And, you know, I love that you said, you kind of knew this, but never could really talk about it before, but until you saw it in your eyes and you saw proof, you can now say it. And there has been proof after proof. And yes, this message has to get out to everyone. And we have to change the narrative and tell the true narrative, which is what you just discussed right now. So thank you so much for bringing that point up. It's important that everyone hears this. And Munzir, you were so sweet. You gave the spot to Abdulkafi. Let's go to you now. And what do you have to say about the same subject?
Hi, how are you?
Hello.
Hope you are fine. The issue is that militias of terrorists militias of the Iranian Guard. They didn't list it at this moment and until now on the terrorism lists of all the words, and we don't know why. Many states like the USA, they used, for example, Al-Qaeda for their war with Russia in Afghanistan, and now the Russian doing the same in Syria. They are supporting the ISIS against the Syrian people to not stand again and to not be free people. Those militias has advanced a lot of front lines from the east, from the Iraqi borders, the Iranian-Iraqi borders, to the Mediterranean, and without any problems or even a comment about that terrorism that they are committing. Those militias had committed more than an ISIS they did, but ISIS, they have that stupid propaganda of media, which make them like savage monsters more than the Iranian guards. Those militias until now, they are still running in that terrorism process in Syria. They are very proud about capturing and taking a lot of parts of Syria and being a part of the negotiation in Syria, and that's what is the wrongest thing happening in Syria. If we are talking this time, like the benefits of the Europe and the United States, it's about and it's not it's to fight the Iranian, not to free the Syrian. This is the issue right now. If we got that solution of the Syrian case from Europe and the United States, they will do one thing. It's fighting the militias of Iran and Iraq, and they will not make anything for that criminal who invite all these terrorists to Syria, like the Assad, who invited all these terrorists and he did all these crimes. So these militias might be a winning card for all the parts for all the parts who linked to Syria, the Syrian regime and the Russians, and even for Europe and the USA. They will make sure that will take that opportunity for taking their benefits from Syria through this militias who's in Syria right now.
Thank you, Munzir. I the message you're sharing with us is also extremely important, and that is that, basically the grounds on Syria and the conflicts became this proxy war where different governments suddenly came in for their own essential needs. As you said, some want to fight Iran, particularly in Syria's ground was the right place to do it, etc. And unfortunately, the Syrian people are the ones who are suffering because they are the ones being killed, bombarded, displaced. They've had to flee and, find refuge in other countries. And we need to bring the narrative back to the Syrian people. It's not about all these other countries and their political needs. It's about the Syrian people. This is a simple message. People went out into the streets in March of 2011 to ask for freedom. This is what they need, and we need to get the story back to that place. And of course, in order to do that, we need to address all the issues you mentioned. What is the IRGC's role, and why are they in Syria, and what do they want, and what is Russia's role, and what is all the other countries involved. So thank you so much for bringing that up. The interesting thing is, as we speak to each one of you, there are different aspects and different stories, but they all make up a whole. And again, the simple narrative is the Syrian people need their freedom. So thank you so much, Munzir.
As you know, we were talking about the biggest event of Syria, which is the displacement from Aleppo, and what the Iranian guards that done that time. They were the most important part in that war on Aleppo, and they as I know the information that I knew at that time, that the Iranian weren't know us to be out of the city. The Russians wants us to just flee out of the city, but the Iranian want that, and they were treated us to slaughter the civilians of Aleppo, and that was the messages from that militias, and that happened on the evacuation or on the displacement way at 15th of December last year. Thank you very much for listening to us.
Oh, thank you, Munzir, so much for joining us today. On the same profession, being a photographer and a journalist, Rami Zien is also with us today. Rami, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi there, how are you doing?
Okay, thank you. Hi there. Hello,
Good.
everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us and for all the work that you do.
Thank you all.
Tell us, Rami, a little bit about your specific profession, being a photographer, being a journalist. How did you use that to get the stories out to the rest of the world? And what was your, when you went out every day and shared and talked, what were you going through? What were you feeling? Can you share a little bit?
Actually, I don't know how to start this, but speaking from a journalist perspective, actually, it wasn't really working quite good with us when we were in Aleppo, because the thing is, working as a journalist, you have to prove everything you have to mention facts, and you have to be very specific. But like going out live in a video and showing an airplane behind you just dropped a barrel bomb is really something else what we do. So I was only trying to show as much as possible, because I know a picture and a video cannot be denied. And it wasn't really all the time available. It was really dangerous to go out live and to show around. But I took the risk, and it was very important to show something that can be used later, something that can be not like writing, not like commenting on Facebook, not like also a voice recording. So I was trying to put more focus on really pictures that showing facts that can be used again to say that this guy is what is doing with us. Okay, this airplane is what is bombarding us, and that's what I was trying to focus on. And after that, I really lost my faith in journalism in the last weeks, because the reaction around the world, the media wasn't actually quite sufficient. It was quite disappointing, but we have some reaction was a little bit enough to make a small attention, but it wasn't really what we were wishing to. The world, yes, a lot of people moved for us, but not sufficiently. So through this experience, I learned that in journalism and in media, you really have to put more effort than you think to make the people turn their heads towards what is happening, because it's really really difficult thing, not like as we imagined earlier.
Well, and certainly, you know, something you said about, as a journalist, you really need to make sure you're showing facts and you're, you know, showing the truth, and, you know, in order to be a faithful journalist, I guess. But, you know, what a difficult task for you to be under such distressing moments and still having to think about that, still having to plan out the fact that even though you're showing a video showing, you know, Russian airplanes bombarding innocent civilians, you still have to make sure that it's proven, that the truth is showing, that you're being ethical. So I can't imagine how challenging and difficult that can be, but certainly you did it. You also said that sometimes you're not sure if the message is going to get across right away and you might use the material later. Are you doing anything with the material now that can be used as further evidence of what took place?
Yes, actually, I have a few of it, and it's not really sufficient. The thing is, I was trying to go live more than getting some videos to document, because at that moment, and like yesterday of the last year, I thought I'm gonna die, or we're gonna be erased and there will be no more. So it wasn't really, it wasn't a good idea to document or film. It was the best idea is to broadcast it live and put tweets and put some stuff that cannot be erased after we're gone. So actually, I don't have really much things. I wish I can go back in time. No, I don't wish I can go back in time, but I wish I could film more and use it later. But it was really difficult times to think about that. We were thinking just to survive the moment. We weren't thinking just surviving a year after that. So that was the reason why we couldn't. And not just me, also a lot of people, a lot of journalists wasn't really going strict with the cameras to document every single thing. We were only thinking momentarily. So it was pretty much difficult to get this point out.
Sure. And, you know, you talked about tweeting and sharing information for the moment. I actually have on the screen right now, I hope everyone can see it, but it was a tweet from you on December 12th, 2016 saying, I guess it's goodbye. Thanks all who stand for us and pay for us, but it's almost over and they are just hours away of killing us. And thank goodness you're still here, and everyone on this call is still here. Of course, we lost many, but we still do this work for them. But this is the kind of distressing moment that you were all under and the difficulty that you were going through. So thank you for, even under such moments, giving that information. Rami, I hope we do see more from you, and you know, maybe we can even connect you with other people putting together information. But this is wonderful work, and please keep doing it. It is so important. We really appreciate you. Thank you, Rami. And speaking of moments to document, you know, we have Ismail Abdullah from the Syria Civil Defense in Aleppo, and certainly the moments of rescuing people under the rubble are worth documenting. It almost feels odd to say that, but you know, these scenes must be shown in order to show the truth to the rest of the world. Ismail, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about the work that you had to do, and you know, what you hope the world learns from it.
Our job, what we did in Aleppo City since 2013 until the evacuation, rescuing people, rescuing kids, women from under the rubble. We saved more than, I don't know, maybe 50,000 people from under the rubble, and all that it didn't stop the bombing at that time. It didn't stop the killing, which was happening every day. After the evacuation, I witnessed many massacres. One of them in the Tarib town, and the other in Idlib city, when they target the city. But it's not that like what happened in Aleppo city, in specific in the last months, and and the bombing was really heavy when they destroyed the city, when they destroyed every every building, when they made the city empty from the people, empty I don't know. I can say that all the videos, all the pictures, all the that we documented for the war, all that didn't stop all the powers, Russia and Iranian mercenaries and everyone made international. They didn't make the international community to stop those killers, to stop those monsters who were enjoying killing the kids. We saved one. No day went without blood in Aleppo city. No day went without we received a call that we respond. We need to rush to the bombing site to save the people, to save. No day went without blood. No day went without bombing on Aleppo city. Coming this area would not be like Aleppo city, Idlib city, the countryside here in the West countryside. All of us, we hope that, but I think, and most of the guys, I know maybe they have an idea that they will destroy this area in the name of Nusra, in the name, I don't know, maybe they will say, they will talk about something new that, but they will destroy this area. They will kill civilians. Until they, I don't know, maybe to cross the border, maybe, because this strategy, this killing, they didn't stop it in Aleppo city. They could stop it, but they didn't.
Yes, and as we mentioned before, this is still happening, and this is why it's so important that we keep talking about this. So I know, at the beginning of the call, several people have said there's so much unknown. They don't know, they've either moved from Aleppo or some are still in Syria, etc. But everyone still is feeling this unknown. And you kind of touched on that a little bit when saying, you don't know whether this is still going to happen. It feels like it's still happening, right? The Russian regime, Syrian regime, Iranian regime are still using those stories. As you said, they will use the Nusra terrorist group as an example of, oh, we're going in to fight Nusra, when in fact they're not. They're fighting, innocent civilians. Although those terrorist groups like ISIS and Nusra do exist and need to be fought off, for some reason, we're seeing all kind of bombardment and killing in areas where those terrorist groups are not present, where only civilians are present. We know it's because the regime wants to finish off anyone who's asking for freedom. But the pattern is still there. And I think that's the important point, is that the pattern is still happening. The pattern has not stopped. And it does need to stop. And so that was then my question. And this is probably a question that will be posed to all of you. And I'd love to hear first from Wissam Zaraqa, who's also another teacher from Aleppo. Knowing that this pattern is still happening, Wissam, what do you all want us, those of us who are not living under these distress conditions, those of us who might be activists, or even if we weren't activists, what do you want us to know? How do you want us to help? I know it's almost seems like a silly question in these times, but we want to hear from you, knowing these patterns are still happening, knowing there's so much unknown. What can we do? Wissam?
Last year, this time, we had very difficult situations. Most of us didn't have access to electricity, to internet. Now, I watch memories on Facebook. People were trying to help us. Media coverage may not change reality, but it means a lot. What you are doing, for example, channels have done, we see it. We see how you were trying to help, how you're trying to shed light on our sufferings. I guess now this is the most important thing. You are not politicians. We are not politicians talking about the memories of Aleppo, but in fact, we have in mind what's happening in Ghouta, and we hope that the same thing will not happen in Ghouta. I guess if we try harder to support them, that would mean a lot to them. In Aleppo, we got out, we were kicked out, in fact, when I meet someone in the street, and it happened that at the same time, he wouldn't use this term. He would say we are the kicked out. Leave until we were really forced to leave, and we are proud of that we stayed until the last moment. We feel that we did what we could. Now we can do something to help people not to suffer the same. It was okay, we got out safely. Many couldn't, many had to go to the regime areas. I know many people, teachers, they were not activists, they were not fighters, and they got arrested in prison. Some, luckily, they can communicate with their parents, tortured and such things, and some of them have just disappeared. Maybe they have been killed. I don't know. For Ghouta, I hope now we concentrate on Ghouta, that do what we can do, have more pressure. Ghouta have been, let's say, besieged for many years, but during the last year, things got much more complicated because there was no access at all for any food. Only what comes from the UN, and it is really little. So I hope we can help by shedding light on that.
Yes, thank you so much, Wissam. As you said, right now, as the pattern continues, Ghouta is really the one that is going through everything, and it's a terrible, terrible situation. We know there are about 500 people who need immediate evacuation. Out of those 500 and something people every day, someone is dying, passing away simply because there's no medical attention, there's no help. Of course, there's no food, there's no aid. It's such a difficult situation. So thank you for bringing that up. And I know many people are trying to do lots of events around it. There's a website right now called ghouta.com. I believe that's GHOUTA.com, so that people can go and see the stories and the pictures. And so it is indeed difficult. And we, I might want to hear more from others about, what you think can happen. Like Wissam said, telling these stories is one of the most important pieces. So certainly want to hear from everyone else. Thank you so much, Wissam. Abdulkafi, I know you're still with us. I would like to, if it's okay, show a part of a video that you sent last year during the distressing times in Aleppo. Is that okay with you?
Sure.
Thank you.
Don't believe anymore in the international community. Don't think that they are not satisfied with what's going on. They are satisfied that we are being killed, that we are facing one of the most difficult or the most serious or the most horrible massacre that is in the new history. Russia doesn't want us to go out alive, they want us dead. Assad is the same. Exactly yesterday we were many celebrations on the other part of Aleppo. They were celebrating on our bodies. It's okay, this is life. But at least we know that we were free people. We wanted freedom. We didn't want anything else but freedom. You know, this world don't believe that you are free people in your countries anymore. No, this world doesn't want freedom, doesn't like freedom. Maybe if you want freedom, so this means that you think. I hope really I hope something can be done and you can live and can together once more. If you say that if you can do something, yes, fine. You can't do anything, you can't go out the streets, you can call to stop this madness. This is at least what you can do. If your government don't respond to your request, what you want, you are going to be the government, and you are not going to have any connection with Russia and with Assad. I hope you can remember us.
Abdulkafi, that last specific sentence, I hope you can remember us, is very, very poignant. This specific part of your video here was very important, I think, for everyone to hear, because you talk about the fact that you just wanted freedom. And you talked about the fact that, don't believe in freedom anywhere. It doesn't exist. And I know that was a very difficult time for you, because you didn't think you were going to come out alive. So the good news, thank God, is that you did come out alive. And the more interesting, great news is that you're still doing this work and still sharing the story. And so that tells us that you also have hope that things, that we can get these stories out and maybe help influence policy and help change and figure something out. So, how do you feel now from that particular moment today? I know you touched a little bit earlier, but now that the audience has seen this video, and I know we're coming to almost the close of the call, but I would love to hear again from you and speaking about this unknown and the patterns we're seeing.
In fact, those memories cannot go out of my mind, cannot be forgotten at all. I still live them in my dreams. I still hear the cries of the children who died just exactly beside my building, maybe a day before announcing the agreement. The whole building collapsed. We might be in their place. I couldn't go out. But I could hear screams. About 6 roofs upon their heads. What can we do for them? I couldn't do anything. No one could do anything. They died there in peace. Till now, their cries are in my ears. I cannot forget. Not them, not others' cries. Because in the last days, we lived a lot of such memories and such incidents that cannot be forgotten. Neither now, nor all our life. Because what we could show, what we could speak, is nothing in comparison with what happened. To know what exactly happened in Aleppo, you should have camera in each corner of Aleppo, in each house, under every stone in Aleppo, to know exactly what happened there, to know what people suffered, to know what people felt there. a lot of people separated. I couldn't know what to do with my daughter, with my wife. I don't know if I was guilty to have them with me. I asked them to leave. They refused. I felt that. I don't know if I make the correct thing or not. But what I'm sure of, that I want to be a free man. I want to speak, not only for me, but even for my daughter, for the future of the children. If we don't speak now, no one will speak for them. For this reason, I say it's okay. We might suffer, but for sure we might die. But the next generations will speak. We know what happened for us. I couldn't imagine at all that I'm going to make it out and speak again to people. I thought it was the end, as all, I think most people who were with us now thought it's the end. We were not sad because we took the decision to stay in Aleppo. It's our paradise. The paradise that we make it, and the hell that made it by Assad. The important thing that I want to concentrate on is the United Nations. This organization, this is the non-neutral organization that must help Assad more than anyone, more than Russia, more than Iranian regime, more than Hezbollah. They helped them a lot. They were the spokesman of Assad. They were the cover of Assad crimes, Russia and Iran. Yes, when we were inside Aleppo, they were speaking about the terrorism of ISIS, the terrorism of Qaeda. We were killed by Assad regime, by Syrian, by Assad regime, by Russian warplanes, by Iraqi militias. Those people who were killing us those days. Why they were concentrating on such things? We cannot forget. We cannot forgive. We want all the world to know that this organization is a corrupted organization that helps the criminals all over the world. They don't want the world to be better. They want the world to be worse and worse. They are the cover of all the dictatorships in this world. They are cover for what happens for the dictatorship of Iran, of Iranian regime. Yes, this is exactly what happens in Syria. They didn't speak about the terrorism of Hezbollah. They didn't speak about the terrorism of Iranian militias. In Syria, more than 200,000 people, I mean foreign militias who are fighting with Assad, all of them are mercenaries. They don't speak about them. They don't concentrate on them. They speak only about ISIS. ISIS that is created by Iran. ISIS that is created by Syrian regime, by Russia. We cannot forget this organization that till now I still feel in pain with what they were saying when we were there. Every word spoken by them, like the bullets, like the bombs, like the barrel bombs that were falling from the sky, from the Assad regime, their words were worse than those atrocities that we were living. Because they were trying to convince people all over the world that we are terrorist people, that my daughter a terrorist. If my daughter, if all those people who make it out, if we died, who might tell the other generations that we were not terrorists?
Yes,
Sorry.
Abdulkafi. No, it's okay. I didn't want to interrupt you because I know you were being very candid and very honest, and I wanted you to be able to get that out because, I certainly can't claim, and many of us cannot claim that we know how you feel at all. What you've gone through and what everyone on this call and many others who aren't with us, what you all have gone through is very difficult, and you need the chance to be able to let it out and as passionate as you need to. So I certainly, and I know everyone else in the audience appreciates your candor, and what you said is very true. And we hope that what we're doing in these calls somehow touches someone in the United Nations, helps them see that they have stood by the wrong side of the criminal regimes as opposed to the right side. So this message is very, very important. I really appreciate it. I know we got a chance to hear from everybody. I know we're at the hour here, but if you're all okay to stay on for just a few minutes, I would love to just hear a little bit more about, again, coming back to this unknown. And Afraa, I know you're still with us on the call, and you were the first one who said there's just such an unknown right now. How can we help? How do we help to, just try to touch on this unknown? What do you want to see from us, those who do work, who are activists outside of Syria? What can we do? And please, just because we've already passed the hour, I'm going to ask you all to just speak very quickly, and we're going to keep it short so we can hear from a few of you. Go ahead, Afraa.
Yes. During the falling of our areas with the regime and the Iranian militias, I was worried about my kids and all the children because we were hearing about the promises of Iranian to slaughter and kill us. I wondered by whom they will start, my eldest son or little daughter. So we know we never trust in the United Nations, trust in your nations, because they know what that we have the right to be free and ask our freedom. We never asked something impossible. We only wanted justice, social justice, and liberty and freedom, not anything impossible.
Absolutely, it's certainly not impossible, and that's why we're not going to stop until we get it. Thank you so much, Afraa. What about from the others? I would love to hear this unknown that we're all feeling, that especially you guys are feeling. How can we help? What do you want us to do? Tell us. Ismail or Munzir or Rami?
Yeah.
Okay, I would like to say something. Do you hear me?
Yes, this is Rami.
Yes, this is Rami.
Yes,
so I would
go ahead.
like to write something about the unknown stuff. The thing is, on a wider scale, on another perspective, the area is not coming to a pretty much unknown. It's, for me, I see pretty much known, at least most of it, a known picture of the area. Because of the Iranian militias and because of the Iranian influence in the area is going to be places and control places, and eventually will be an ethnic or religional based country, because the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Force now, their dream, and also the Iranian regime, and their principle is based on religional and sectarian principles. And this is really not just national threat for Syria, it's also international threats for the rest of countries, the neighborings, and maybe the world. Coming from Iran to Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon, Mediterranean, I think eventually the Iranian influence will not stop until make all of this connection together and make a really larger state based on sectarian principles. This is a really not just a normal threat. As we have seen earlier, Kurdistan tried to make an ethnic-based state, and all the world have worked around, and all the neighboring countries were really on set to act, because an ethnic-based state or sectarian-based state is really dangerous for society and for the community and for the international security. So I think the Iranian revolutionary guard force is the core of this sectarian project in the area. So if no one will interfere for this matter specifically, the area will not go to the unknown. The area will go to a known sectarian larger state, which will make a really unfortunate situations and even more difficult to the other sects and the other regional communities in the area, not just in Syria, also in Iraq and Lebanon as well.
And you know, that's a very important point, because as you said, you know, the Assad regime and the IRGC in partnership are trying to make this a sectarian war when it's not. It's not a sectarian war, it's not a civil war, it's not a religious war. It's basically just a war of a government against its people because they wanted to speak up and say what's on their mind, right? And yet the narrative they're using is that it is a sectarian war. And Syria has never been sectarian, or the plight of the people who want freedom for Syria essentially want a pluralistic Syria where all religions and all ethnicities are welcome, because Syria comes from such a mosaic, you know, so many different people, so many different religions, and that's something that is welcomed and loved, and that's the Syria we want to see. So that's the dangerous game that the Iranian militias and the Syrian regime were playing in turning this into a sectarian issue. So thank you, Rami, so much for touching on that point. And it's funny, you said it's an unknown, but it's a known. Absolutely, we know and we see, and you know, activities are documented. The unknown is where does it go from here, but that's the role that we play, and that's why it's important for us to you know, do something about this and keep telling the stories, even though at times it feels like it's going nowhere. So thank you so much for adding that. Who else would like to talk about this, you know, unknown, and what can we do, those of us who are outside Syria, to help you get the message?
Yes. A few days ago, exactly 3 days ago, it was the day of the human rights, the anniversary of the 70 year of human rights. I was active at the last year to inform the world what is the human rights and what is happening in Syria, which is against the human rights. But it didn't work. And it didn't work anymore. And my last message from Aleppo, which I didn't publish yet, I decided to publish it in exactly on the day, the last day of us in Aleppo. I think it's not going to be a victory for good people on this planet, on this earth, but we still struggle, and we still pushing some messages to
we
the
still
world.
fight. Yeah. Yes.
To just back to their humanity, to fight for the humanity, to fight for human rights, because if anyone lost it on this earth, so no one will be safe on this planet at all. We saw that before when the first dictator started killing his people and were just be silent about this case. So the others encouraged to do more and more, and that's what's happening in Syria. With shooting the demonstrations directly to the people who's protesting, and the war didn't do anything. Just just speech and just some few words against the regime. And all of us know that Russia didn't involve directly in Syria. After that, crimes become bigger and bigger, and war wouldn't involve crimes. So that what pushed the criminals, Russians, to be a part of this gang against the freedom and against the free people. And they took that opportunity, which didn't been took by the other countries, like board of Europe and USA, which must be the defenders of the democracy and the freedom of the world. If anyone asks me what you think you have done all these years, the most important thing that I had that who I will teach him about freedom and about what is to be a human on this planet. This is very difficult. The world all is converting to be against the freedom. I just was following many news from different countries that a lot of fascists are winning some parts of conflict in their countries, and that's what will grow up day after day, and that what will convert that blank to make him back to the when all the people fighting each other and killing each other without account and without any responsibility as a humans on this planet to save the human being wiped by the barbarian, those monsters who is ruling this world, really.
You know, Munzir, I love that you said you will focus on the best thing that happened to you in the last few years, and that is that you had a son, and that you will teach him about freedom. This message is probably one of the most important messages we can take from any work that has been done, and that is that, you know, even though the Syrians have not attained freedom yet, and I know you said it doesn't seem like we're going to get victory for the good people, because it certainly is such a tough time right now that we're not seeing the possibilities, right? But the possibility is in our sons and daughters who don't know any better yet, and if we just teach them and infuse in them what freedom is all about, perhaps they are the tool that will help us get to the next place. And I know that's infused not just in our new sons and daughters, but in so many of us, so many of you. Again, I know I've repeated this so many times, but it's a message I really like to convey, is that you guys are still coming on these calls. You guys are still sending pictures. You guys are still telling stories. You know, the revolution continues. We will keep going until we do attain freedom somehow or another. And thank goodness for sons and daughters who help us keep that hope. Thank you so much for that message. I really appreciate it. So we've heard from Munzir, from Afraa, from Rami, from Wissam. I think, Ismail, what about you? Do you have anything to say about the unknown and what can be done? Ismail, do we still have you on the call? Okay, perhaps we've lost you. And I know, Wissam, you touched on it a little bit, but is there anything else you want to add after you've heard from everyone else?
I don't know what to say. I guess like people felt that they felt helpless at that time. Many of us thought that these, like Abdulkafi said, would be our last days. We survived. So would you come back and live in the same situation? Maybe many of us wouldn't mind to go back. All of us will die, but not all of us have lived the life they wish to live. So we don't regret. It was our choice to stay in Aleppo. The choice of people in Ghouta to stay in Ghouta. Danger is there for sure, but it's our choice. We know that freedom has got a price. Like many people, I guess, in all over the world, especially we can talk about Iran. I know, like many people are refugees. Iranian people are refugees because they've chosen to leave their country instead of living without freedom. The best thing to be is to live in your country and to have freedom. Work for that. We may not achieve it, but it's enough that we are trying. Hope all people of the region will get this chance to live freedom in their own countries.
Yes, as the Syrian people go through their revolution, the Iranian people are going through their own revolution. Many other areas in the world, frankly. Wissam, can you still hear me? I might have lost. Can you guys hear me?
Sorry, I didn't get your last sentence.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I lost you there for a little bit. I couldn't hear you, so I wasn't sure if you were still speaking or if you stopped speaking. Can you hear me?
I stopped speaking, but I'm not sure if you've asked some question.
Okay. No, yes, I was saying you were talking about the Iranian people having their own revolution. So besides the Syrian people, the Iranian people, there are also some other areas in the world, frankly. And it's so important to make sure, just like the Syrian people asking for freedom have nothing to do with the Syrian government, same for, the Russian people versus their government, the Iranian people versus their government.
Right.
Right. At least we have solidarity in
right. I guess as peoples, we need to know that. We need to know that when we have a problem with countries like Russia or Iran, we need to find people in these countries, fighters too, and cooperate. That would help a lot. That will be very fruitful for the future, whether they are Iranian or Russian or Syrian. They can't go on forever. Some end for them because they are corrupted. But people will stay. We should plan for that stage.
Oh, it's time to end the call, and that is the perfect way to end the call, Wissam. It is about the people. We all want the same thing. We all want to just live in freedom and have our simple rights. That's a beautiful message to end with. I think it's what we are all hoping for anyway, and this is the main narrative we want. We just need to make sure we band together and work together. As a matter of fact, this call is a perfect example of that. This call was actually put together by Iranian people for us to have a platform as Syrian people to talk and to discuss, what is happening, what is the Iranian regime doing, what is the Syrian regime doing. So a beautiful message to end with. I hope, this won't be the last time we all talk. We need to all do this often. We need to figure out how to keep continuing the message, and we need to see how to keep learning from all of you in order to do our job better and our job right. So I can't thank you all enough. Thank you so much. I do want to send a quick shout out to Wendy Whittam and the Stand with Aleppo team, who here in the United States worked so hard to get some of these messages from Aleppo out a year ago, and even now. You know, the hashtag Stand with Aleppo is now hashtag Free Syria. So they have gone broader, and they're, you know, the work is still happening, and the group is getting larger and more collaboration. So again, to the message from Wissam, it's about the people bonding together. Thank you all so much. We will speak again soon. Appreciate you all, and Ali Raza, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.